In the shadows of history lie stories few dare to tell. Tales of forgotten soldiers who fought battles unseen. This is the story of one such warrior, a young man caught in the flames of war, where every step could mean life or death. Today, we journey deep into the forgotten front lines and uncover the raw truth of courage, loss, and survival. Stay with us. This is a story you will never forget. The morning was heavy and still. Andres Salonga sat by the water's edge, repairing a torn fishing net. His father had set it up between two bamboo poles. The tide moved slowly. The sky was pale and clear. Andres felt a weight in his chest. The first sound was sharp, like a branch snapping far off in the trees. Then another and another, louder, faster, more urgent. His father stood, without a word, dropped the net and reached for the bolo knife. "Go inside," he said. Andres hesitated, but obeyed. He watched from between the bamboo slats as smoke rose thick and black into the sky. Gunshots cracked, not like the old rifles, but sharper, faster. The voices were angry and foreign, not Tagalog, not Spanish, but English. The Americans had arrived. Andres's mother clutched her rosary, whispering prayers. Tomas burst in blood, streaking his face. "They are burning the huts, shooting anyone who runs," he said. His voice trembled. Andres had never seen him afraid. They fled through the back of the hut, past chickens scattering into the smoke, past fallen bodies. Andres saw Mateo lying face down by the river. They ran blindly into the jungle. Branches tore at their skin. The fire chased them like a beast. His mother stumbled, but Tomas pulled her up. Suddenly Tomas was gone, lost in the chaos. Andres and his mother stopped near a dry ravine, exhausted and silent. The forest was darker than night, filled with strange sounds. Andres whispered Tomas's name, but only silence answered. Night came cold and unforgiving. They barely slept. The next morning light filtered through wet leaves. Andres and his mother drank the last water, ate some dried fish. Then footsteps approached. A man stepped from the bushes, rifle in hand. It was Ca Lucio, their old neighbor, now a fighter. His eyes were hard. "They took Belena," he said. "They burned Tanawan, shot anyone who did not kneel. You cannot stay here. Come with me or you will die." Andres looked at his mother. She nodded, and they followed deeper into the jungle, not knowing what awaited them. Ca Lucio lead Andres and his mother through thick jungle. The trees crowded close. The heat was heavy and suffocating. The sound of distant gunfire echoed faintly, like thunder far away. Andres felt the weight of every step. Fear pressed on his chest. His mother stayed close and silent. They walked for hours. The trees began to thin. The sound of running water reached their ears. Lucio stopped by a narrow stream. He motioned for them to drink. Andres bent down to the cool water. His throat was raw and dry. Lucio watched them with tired eyes. This was no longer their home, but it was safer for now. The old man spoke slowly. He told stories of lost villages, of friends turned enemies, of Americans who showed no mercy. Andres felt a fire grow inside him. Anger and grief burned bright. He wanted to fight, but he was only a boy. His hands were calloused from nets and farming, not from guns or war. Night fell. They made camp beneath a canopy of leaves. Lucio taught Andres to move quietly, to listen for danger, to survive in the wild. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. They foraged for roots and berries. Andres learned to trust the forest, to read its signs. The moon rose pale and cold. Sleep was elusive. His mind filled with memories of home, of smoke and screams, of Tomas and the river stained red. He wondered if his brother was alive or lost in the darkness. Days passed. Others joined their group, villagers who escaped the fires and bullets. Among them, a fierce woman who led a young man skilled with a rifle. Andres understood this was more than survival. This was resistance, a quiet war fought in shadows, against a force that seemed unstoppable. Hope flickered like fireflies in the night. Their journey had only begun. The group moved deeper into the forest. Each step carried weight. Every rustle of leaves made hearts race. The jungle was no longer shelter. It had become the front line. Calusio kept them moving, always silent, always watching. They slept in short shifts. They ate little roots, dry fish, wild fruit. It was never enough. Andres watched the others, men who used to be farmers, women who once ran markets. Now they held knives and old rifles. Now they spoke in whispers and walked like ghosts. A boy named Silas joined them, barely older than Andres. His hands shook when he held the gun, but he never let it go. One night the leaders met. They drew lines in the dirt. They spoke of a patrol. American soldiers stationed near the river. The plan was simple. Strike fast, fade faster. Andres listened. He felt his stomach twist. The idea of killing made his hands sweat, but the idea of doing nothing felt worse. The next day they moved, silently, step by step. The trees grew thicker. The heat rose. Bugs clung to their skin. The air felt tight. Near dusk, they reached a ridge. Below them, tents. A few fires. 5 soldiers, laughing, talking. Andres could see their faces. They looked young. One leaned back, smoking. Another polished his rifle. Calusio gave the signal. The first shot came from Silas. It hit the smoking soldier in the chest. He didn't scream. He only fell. Then chaos. The camp erupted. Bullets cracked. 2 Americans fell before they could grab their guns. One ran into the trees. The other shouted. Andres froze. His body refused to move. A figure rushed past him. It was the woman. She tackled the last soldier, drove her blade into his side. Then silence. Just birds. Just wind. The camp was still. Andres breathed again. His hands shook. His legs weak. He had not fired a shot. But something inside him had changed. They searched the camp, took supplies, ammunition, a map. They vanished into the trees before more came. That night, no one spoke. Not even Calusio. Andres stared at the stars. He felt proud. He felt ashamed. He felt something he could not name. The war was no longer far away. It was inside him now. The rain came without warning. Heavy, cold, relentless. It washed over the camp as they slept. Andres woke to the sound of leaves thrashing above. Water poured through the trees. His mat was soaked. His clothes stuck to his skin. Ka, Lucio barked. Orders. Move higher. Find shelter. They scrambled up a slope, slick with mud. Branches snapped underfoot. Andres slipped twice. His mother pulled him once. Silas helped her the second time. They found a ledge and huddled beneath it. Rain pounded the forest. It erased all sound. Andres sat shivering, teeth clenched. Fire was impossible. They waited in the dark. Hours passed. The downpour softened. A mist rose from the ground. Everything dripped. Andres looked at his fingers, wrinkled, pale. He thought of Tomas. Was he dry somewhere? Or was he lying in the rain, like so many they had passed? The thought made his chest hurt. At dawn, the rain stopped. The world felt hollow. Calusio gathered them. He pointed to the map they had taken. A bridge, a supply route, American horses, food, guns. The leaders argued. Too risky, too open. But Lucio insisted. We cannot survive hiding. We strike or we starve. They voted. The answer was yes. They marched. By midday, Andres walked with Silas. Both silent, both tired. The jungle buzzed around them. The path was narrow. Sharp vines clawed their legs. 2 men carried a homemade bomb, a sack filled with nails and powder. The woman carried a pistol, now, her eyes always scanning. They reached the bridge by sundown. It stood above a deep stream, wide, stone, guarded by 4 soldiers. One smoked, one sat reading, 2 talked by a cart. The rebels watched from the trees. Calusio gave the signal. The 2 men ran forward and threw the sack. It landed beside the cart. Then the sky split open. The explosion ripped the air. It flew. A horse screamed. The soldiers fell back stunned. The woman fired once. One soldier dropped. Silas fired twice. Missed once. Hit once. The rest ran. It was over in seconds. Andres had not moved. Again, he stood frozen, staring at the smoke, at the pieces, blood on the leaves. They raided the cart, found canned food, blankets, a single clean uniform. They took what they could, then vanished. Deeper, always deeper. That night, they ate hot food. First time in weeks. Andres chewed slowly, watching the fire, watching the faces. No one laughed, no one spoke of victory. Only survival, only the next fire, the next bullet, the next morning. The jungle grew louder each day. Cicadas screamed in the heat, birds scattered at every footstep. The forest no longer felt like cover. It felt like a trap. Andres walked with a hand on his blade, always. The boy who once fixed nets had vanished. In his place, a shadow moved. Quiet, cautious, changed. They traveled without speaking. Their eyes said everything. Exhaustion, hunger, fire, waiting in their blood. Calucio led them east, toward the hills, toward an old chapel hidden in stone. The woman called it sacred ground. The Americans had not touched it yet. They reached it by nightfall. Ivy had grown over the doorway. The bell was missing, but the wall still stood. They entered in silence. No prayers, just Bodhi's, looking for shelter. Andres sat near the altar. His mother lit a candle, one of 3 left. She whispered something he could not hear. Maybe a name, maybe a plea. The group rested for 2 days. Wounds were cleaned, arms were sharpened. Lucio studied the map again. Another patrol, another chance. They were smaller now. 4 had left, too tired, too scared, or too broken. 1 had died from fever, buried beneath a mango tree. No one cried. There were no tears left. On the 3rd day, they moved. Andres stepped outside and looked up. The sky was bruised purple. Rain coming again. They crossed the stream and climbed the ridge. Silas walked beside him. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. At the top, they saw smoke. American camp. Flags fluttering. Trucks parked near tents. Big ones, not 5 soldiers. Not 10. At least 20. Maybe more. The woman cursed under her breath. Lucio stared. "We are not ready," he said. "We returned tonight, but it was too late." A snap, a shout, a flare shot into the sky. The forest exploded with light. Bullets tore through the branches. "Run!" Lucio shouted. "Scatter!" Andres ran, feet bleeding, heart pounding. Silas behind him, his mother somewhere in the dark. The woman vanished into the trees. The ground dipped. Andres fell, rolled, mud in his mouth. He crawled forward, hands shaking. Then stillness. Only the hum of insects. Only the heat of his own breath. He did not move. Not for hours. When he finally stood, he was alone. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Andres stood still. His legs ached. His chest burned. His hands were scratched and shaking. The trees around him were soaked in shadow. He did not know where the others had gone. He did not know if they were alive. He moved slowly, step by step, listening, watching. The ground was soft beneath his feet. Mud clung to his skin. His knife felt heavier than ever. He gripped it tightly, like it was the only thing keeping him alive. The flare had changed everything. Their hiding place was no longer safe. The Americans had spotted them. Andres knew they would come hunting. He walked for hours. The sky above remained gray. Rain dripped from every branch. He found broken tracks in the soil. Boot prints, deep and wide. Not rebels, soldiers. He crouched, waited, but heard nothing. He moved on. Hunger gnawed at his stomach. His throat was dry, his legs weak. He had no food, no water, just a blade and a prayer. Then he heard it. A voice, low, familiar. "Silas." Andres called back. The trees parted. Silas stumbled through, face pale, shirt torn, blood on his shoulder. They grabbed each other, held tight. Silas whispered, "I saw your mother. She ran north. With the woman. They made it, I think. Andres nodded. That was enough. They found a hollow tree and crawled. Inside. It smelled like rot, but it was shelter. They slept in shifts, eyes half open, blades ready. In the morning the sun broke through, for the first time in days. It felt wrong. Too bright, too clean. They moved again. North. Always north. Toward the others. Toward the chapel. But the chapel was gone. Smoke rose from the ridge. Andres felt his knees weaken. He crawled up the slope, inch by inch. Then he saw it. Ashes, stone, blackened wood. The chapel had burned. The bell tower crumbled. The altar shattered. No bodies, no blood, just silence. He stepped through the ruins. Heart numb. Maybe they had escaped. Maybe not. Silas found a cloth, torn, familiar. Andres took it, folded it, put it in his pocket. He did not speak. He just turned and walked, away from the ruins, away from the smoke. He did not cry. He could not. The jungle had taken his tears, and it was not done yet. They walked for 2 days. No voices, only footsteps and breath. Silas moved slower. His wound was getting worse. Fever had crept into his eyes. Andres gave him what little water he could find. They chewed on bark, picked berries that did not kill them. At night, Silas shook. Andres held his shoulder, whispered that they would find help. He lied. The trees thickened. The paths vanished. The sun barely reached the floor. Then they heard movement. Light steps. Careful. Not boots. Not soldiers. Rebels. A boy stepped from the brush. Andres recognized him. He was from their village. Older, quiet, thin, like a skeleton. He stared at them for a long time, then nodded. "Come," he said. Andres helped Silas walk. The boy led them through twisting trails, past hidden signs, deep into a pocket of trees where smoke curled gently into the air. A small camp for people. One was the woman. She stood when she saw them. Andres felt something burst in his chest. His mother was there, sitting, hands in her lap. She saw him, stood, ran, held him so tight he could not breathe. No one spoke. There were no words, only breath, only shaking, only warmth. That night they ate rice and dried fish. It tasted like heaven. Silas was laid down on a mat. The fever still burned, but he slept. The rebels were tired. Fewer now. The attack had scattered them. Some were dead. Some had fled. Colucio had not been seen since the flare. The woman said they might have to leave again. The Americans were sweeping the hills, closer each day. Andres sat beside his mother. She told him she had prayed every night. Prayed without sound, without light. Just hope. She said Tomas was still missing. Andres said nothing. He just listened to the night. The jungle still buzzed, still moved, but for the first time in days, he felt something soft inside him. Something like peace. Faint, distant, but real, if only for a moment. The peace did not last. Before dawn, a sharp whistle cut through the trees. One of the rebels shouted, "Positions." Andres grabbed his blade. His mother crawled behind a fallen log. Silas tried to rise, but fell again. The woman had a rifle in her hands. She did not blink. The jungle snapped. Footsteps rushed. Then came the voice. Loud. English. "Drop your weapons. Now." The rebels did not answer. The woman fired once. A soldier screamed. Then the world exploded. Bullets tore through branches. Wood split. The boy who had led them to the camp fell first, hit in the chest. He gasped twice, then stilled. The woman rolled, fired again. 2 more shots. One soldier dropped. The others spread out. The forest became smoke. Andres pulled his mother lower, covered her with his arms. He saw Silas reach for his rifle. He could barely lift it, but he tried. A soldier charged from the left. Andres stood without thinking. He swung the blade. The edge caught the man's leg. He screamed and fell. Andres stood over him. chest heaving, blood on his hands. The soldier groaned, reached for something. Andres stepped back. The woman fired. The man went still. Andres looked down. His legs trembled, but he did not fall. Another shot rang out, then silence. Smoke drifted through the clearing. 4 soldiers lay dead. 1 had fled. The rebels stood slowly, blood on their sleeves, eyes wide, breathing hard. The woman looked at Andres, nodded once. He nodded back. They buried the dead in silence, marked the graves with stones. Andres sat by the fire that night. He could not eat. He could still feel the warmth of blood on his skin. He had killed. He had crossed the line. There was no going back now. Morning came slow and gray. The jungle dripped from the night storm. Andres sat by the ashes of the fire. His blade lay across his lap, his hand still stained. He stared at them for a long time. The others moved quietly, packing, folding, checking rifles. No one spoke of the attack. No one asked how they felt. There was no space for that. The woman stood near the edge of the trees, her rifle strapped across her back, her eyes locked on the horizon. She spoke once. "We move in 1 hour. The Americans will come. We cannot stay." Silas tried to stand again. He made it halfway, fell against a tree. He laughed once, then coughed. Andres helped him drink water. His mother sat near him, whispering to herself. Maybe a prayer. Maybe a list of names. Andres could only hear her breath. They left before the sun cleared the trees. The forest was slick, the paths narrow. Every sound felt sharp. The woman led. Andres followed close, Silas behind him. The group was smaller again, 5 in total. Andres, his mother, Silas, the woman, and a man named Reno, who barely spoke. They moved like ghosts. At midday they reached a stream, shallow, clear. They stopped to drink, wash, breathe. Andres stared into the water. His face looked different, harder, older, his eyes darker. He saw what war had done, and what it was still doing. They crossed the water and climbed a hill. At the top was a view of the lowlands. Smoke rose in the distance, a village burning. Too far to help, too close to forget. They kept walking. A bird flew overhead. Startled, then silence. Reno raised his hand. They dropped to the ground. Ahead, a man in uniform, alone, gun slung low, walking slow. Not a soldier, not exactly. A scout. Andres gripped his blade. The woman raised her rifle. "Wait," she whispered. The man walked closer, then stopped, looked at the trees. Something in his body froze. Then he spoke, in perfect Tagalog. "I am not your enemy. I am looking for my brother. His name is Tomas." Andres felt the world tilt. His breath caught. He stood slowly, heart racing. The man turned, his face tired, beard grown, eyes wide. Andres stepped forward. The man dropped his rifle, took 1 step. Andres said 1 word, "Brother." Tomas ran forward. Andres ran too. They met in the tall grass, fell into each other's arms. Neither spoke, just breathing, just shaking. Tomas held him tight. His voice cracked when he said his name again. Andres. Andres nodded. They pulled apart. Both stared, both older, both changed. The woman lowered her rifle. Silas leaned against a tree, smiling weakly. Their mother stood frozen, hands over her mouth. Then she moved, walked slowly, her legs trembling. She reached Tomas, touched his face, then pulled him close. She wept for the first time in weeks. No words, just the sound of a mother holding her son. Tomas explained in broken pieces. After the first attack he had run into the hills, wounded, alone, found by a farmer, nursed back to health, then began searching. From village to village, jungle to jungle, always hoping, never stopping. He heard of rebels in the east, so he came. The woman watched him carefully, asked no questions, just nodded. "We keep moving." she said. This reunion changes nothing. The war is not over. Tomas understood. They walked again. Now 6 of them. Andres stayed close to his brother, asking things. Little things. Did you eat? Did you sleep? Did you see fire? Tomas answered. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But they were together now. That night they camped near a dry riverbed. No fire. Just sky. Just stars. Andres sat beside Tomas. He asked him, "Did you kill anyone?" Tomas stared ahead, his jaw tight. "Yes," he said. "Only once, but I remember his face." Andres nodded. "I do too." They did not speak again. They did not need to. 2 brothers under a black sky, surrounded by silence, wrapped in war, still breathing, still human. Dawn broke cold and gray. The wind moved through the trees like a whisper. The 6 of them packed in silence. The woman led, as always, eyes forward, rifle slung tight. They moved along the riverbed, its stones loose, its path winding. Andres walked beside Tomas, their mother just behind them. Silas looked worse. His breath was shallow, his steps uneven. The fever had returned. Reno carried his pack. No one complained. No one slowed. The mission was clear. Reach the eastern caves. A network of tunnels. Old, hidden. A place rebels had used before. Safe for now. Or as safe as anything could be. By midday, Silas collapsed. Fell hard. Did not rise. Andres dropped beside him. Pressed a hand to his forehead. It burned. The woman knelt. Checked his pulse. Weak. Fading. She looked at Reno, her voice low. "We carry him." No one hesitated. Tomas lifted one arm, Reno the other. They made a stretcher from branches and cloth. Moved slower now. The forest grew thicker. The light dimmed. The air smelled like wet earth. Andres counted each step. His hands ached. His shoulders burned, but they did not stop. Not until the sun vanished. Then they camped beneath a cluster of fig trees. No fire, just dry leaves and a shared blanket. Silas shivered all night. Andres sat beside him, whispered old stories, hoped it helped. He remembered, when they met, how Silas had missed every shot, how he had smiled anyway, how he had believed. That belief mattered now. Just before dawn, Silas opened his eyes, looked at Andres. His lips moved. No sound, just one breath, then stillness. Andres sat there for a long time. No tears, just silence. The woman came, covered his body, said nothing. The jungle made room for the dead. Then the living kept walking. They buried Silas beneath a tamarind tree. The ground was soft, the roots shallow. It did not take long. They placed stones over the soil. Andres laid Silas's knife beside them, a mark of who he had been, a fighter, a brother, a believer. Number 1 spoke. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then they walked again. The jungle watched them. Birds scattered in the branches. Somewhere in the distance, a shot rang out. Then silence. The path narrowed. The woman led with her rifle raised. Tomas followed her. Andres and Reno stayed behind with their mother between them. She said she had dreamed of fire again, but this time the flames were blue. She did not explain. They reached the caves by nightfall, hidden behind a wall of vines, just as Coluccio had described. Inside it was cool, damp. The air smelled of old smoke. The floor was dirt and stone. They found carvings on the walls, names, dates, some more than 10 years old. Andres ran his fingers across them, wondered how many had lived, how many had not. They set up camp near the back wall. A pool of rainwater dripped from the ceiling, enough to drink. Reno built a trap at the cave entrance. Tomas gathered dry moss for bedding. The woman sat alone, watching the entrance, always watching. That night Andres could not sleep. His thoughts crawled over each face he had seen. Mateo, Silas, the boy who bled out near the chapel. He thought of the soldier he had cut. He remembered the sound of the scream, the color of the blood. He asked himself if he was still the same boy who had fixed nets by the river. He asked and asked, but there was no answer. Just darkness, just wind through the mouth of the cave, and the war waiting outside. The days in the cave were long and quiet. The forest outside whispered and waited. Food was scarce and water colder than Andres liked. Each morning they gathered what they could from the surrounding jungle. Tomas showed them how to find edible roots and berries. The woman kept watch at the entrance, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. Andres spent hours tracing the old carvings on the cave walls. Names and dates like ghosts frozen in stone. Some were soldiers, some were rebels, all forgotten by time. At night they spoke in whispers, stories of home, of lost dreams, of a world that felt far away. Andres missed the river, the sun on his skin, the laughter of children in the village. But he knew those days were gone. The war had changed everything. One evening Tomas approached Andres, his face grim. He spoke of scouts spotted near the cave, Americans hunting for rebel hideouts. The group prepared quickly. Reno checked their weapons. The woman planned their escape routes. Andres felt the old fear return, the weight in his chest, but he pushed it down. They had survived this far. They would survive more. That night, the jungle held its breath, and Andres waited for what was coming next. The dawn was blood red. Smoke curled from the treetops like a warning. The rebels stirred quietly. The woman stood at the cave entrance, her rifle ready. Tomas checked the perimeter. Andres helped his mother pack their few belongings. The silence was heavy, then a distant roar, the thunder of engines. The Americans had found them. The jungle trembled beneath the sound. Coluccio was gone, but his spirit stayed. The group moved as one, slipping through hidden paths, avoiding the fire and the bullets. They crossed streams and climbed rocky slopes. The air was thick with smoke and fear. At one point, a patrol passed close. They held their breath, stayed still. The soldiers moved on, unaware, for now, but the war was closing in. Andres felt every step like a battle, his heart pounding, his legs aching, yet he pressed forward, for his mother, for Tomas, for the memory of the river where he had once fished. Night fell. They found a ruined hut, shelter from the storm. They rested briefly, dreams filled with fire and loss. Andres woke to the sound of a child crying. Somewhere near the hut, they moved toward it cautiously. A small girl huddled beneath broken boards, alone, afraid. The woman picked her up gently. They wrapped the child in a blanket. She had no family, no home. Andres looked at her wide eyes, saw his own fear reflected back. The war had claimed another soul. The group was smaller now, weighed down by loss and grief. The child held close by the woman. Andres felt the weight of the journey on his shoulders. They moved toward the coast, hoping for safety, hoping for an end. The jungle thinned. The salt air grew strong. Birds circled overhead. They found a hidden cove, a place where boats might pass. Night fell. They built a small fire. The child slept beside Andres. Tomas stood watch. The woman cleaned her rifle. Silence settled like a heavy cloak. Andres thought of the river, where it all began. Of the family he had lost. Of the friends who had died. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew this. They were still alive, still fighting, still human. The war was not over, but neither was their hope. And in that hope, Andres found a spark, a light in the darkness, a promise of morning sun. The stories of these brave soldiers remind us that behind every battle lies courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable hope. If you want to hear more untold tales from forgotten wars, don't forget to subscribe and join our journey into histories. hidden front lines, stay with us. Your support keeps their memories alive. Subscribe now.